Alright, so by now, chances are that you at the very least have a basic idea of the structure and hierarchy of Google Ads. So what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna start setting up our first campaign and looking at the different networks, what they are, what they mean, and if we should even use them. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, let's get started. Alright, so before we start looking at the different networks, as you can see, we're on this new campaign site where we ended up when we created a Google Ads account. And the first thing that is asking for is our campaign name, right? We already chose what type. We decided for the search type, which is that we're going to try to profit on another searcher's intent, which means that we are going to try to aim in other people's search terms with our keywords, show our ads very hyper specifically for those, and hopefully have them click and then call us or buy our product or whatever we're looking for. But once again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have decided for the search type, and now it's time for a campaign name. Now, as we already learned in the organization part in the previous lecture about structure, the name, the campaign name, is going to be completely depending on what kind of business you have and also what kind of ad you're planning to set up and what kind of future ads you're planning on setting up. So to go with the previous examples, if you have a restaurant, you might set up your campaign name something like this. You might set it up like desserts, let's spell it correctly, desserts USA. And what I've done here is that I've targeted in the campaign name with what it's about. Let's say that we're selling desserts, and then also where, the US, right? And we could make another campaign that's called Desserts Sweden, or we could call it Desserts Europe even if we're gonna target Europe, or we could also just call it Desserts. Once again, this is gonna depend on your organization, and you can add in as much or as little info as you wish. For now, just for basics, to start off, we're gonna call it Desserts. You can change the name later, and we're gonna learn as we go what we want to call our name. But just to let you know, it's a good idea to add in the dashes and add in some additional information for your dashboard later on, so you have an easier time organizing. All right, so we have Desserts. Now, going down, we have something called networks, right? And as you can see, Google has already filled these in for us. Now, I'm gonna start from the bottom here and talk about display network and what that is, because it's so vastly different from search network. Now, a display network is basically that they take this ad and then it's gonna take all of the additional information with the extensions, with the ad information, with the links, with the phone numbers, everything that we're gonna add into this ad. They're gonna be able to take that information and put them on different websites, all the kind of different websites that are a part of the display network. Now, if you've ever created a website and you've used Google AdSense, you'll know that the display network is connected to Google AdSense. If you never heard of Google AdSense, don't worry. But basically, if you have a website and you want to profit from the website, you can install something to show ads, and that means that if you check this in, your ads are going to be able to display on those websites. And there are a lot of different problems connected with this, and let's start off with the very most obvious problem, and that is that what we're doing here is a search campaign, right? We have a search intent. So what we're doing is we're capitalizing on what someone else is searching for. So if someone is searching for vegan desserts, for example, and we're having a takeaway and we're targeted correctly and everything, we want to show up for vegan desserts. Now, if we are in the display network, what would happen is that they would show our vegan dessert ads on random websites. We don't know who they're searching for. We don't know who is looking at them. We don't know why they're looking at them. And the chances of them actually clicking and buying is gonna be so low, because it's a completely different ball game, right? Here we're focusing on search intent, and here we're focusing on displaying the ads, not on search intent. There are no search intents in the display network. So never ever combine the two. If you're having a search campaign, then focus on having a search campaign. That's gonna keep your data clean. If you include the display network and then later on you analyze the data, you don't know if things went well or if things went badly because of the display network or because of the way you set it up or because of the keywords you were using. You have no idea, and you have no way of testing or optimizing that because you don't control where these are showing, right? So we're gonna deselect this, and that is always a best practice to do. Now, we never ever do ads using display network, and we never recommend that you do ads either using the display network. It's so unreliable and unpredictable. Can you make it work? Absolutely, but it's not beginner friendly, and it should never be combined with the search campaign, right? Because it's a display campaign, it's so different. So the next one is called search network, and it's a little bit differently. It still focuses on search intent, but what it means is that it's going to be including the ads that we are creating on other sites that Google are partnered with, usually high authority sites, such as, for example, Ask.com or YouTube or CNN.com, or, you know, these really large sites. Sometimes you can have them on Bing, on Yahoo. You know, who their official partners are changes constantly, so you have no idea of knowing where they might be and where they might stop being. But to show you how the search network works is that if I go to Google right now and I search for protein powder, we can see the top results are these ones. Now they're a little bit different. We're looking at the search intent, right? So we can see down here for the search intent ads, we have iherb.com/protein. We can see this link, and we have TH because we're currently in Thailand. And down below we have oneshealth.com. So they are capitalizing on my search intent, which is searching for protein powder, by using and ranking for the keyword protein powder, right? Because chances are I'm looking for it, I want to buy it, and they want to rank for it and capitalize on that. But if I also go to ask.com and I search for protein powder, remember it's iHerb and One's Health. If I go to ask.com and I search for protein powder, you're gonna see that iherb.com/protein, the exact same link, meaning it's the same ad, and oneshealth.com are ranking here as well with their ad. Even if I go to youtube.com, we can see iherb.com/protein are ranking here. And that is because they're most likely a part of the search network. So that means that they are a part of Google's partner list, and it allows your ads to show on Google's partners' websites, like Ask.com or YouTube, and sometimes even Amazon.com. But they're only going to show for the search intent. They're only showing because on YouTube I search for protein powder, and on Ask.com I search for protein powder, similarly of course on Google. But the problem with this is, especially if you are a beginner, is that just because someone goes to Ask.com and searches for protein powder doesn't mean that they have a buying intention, right? Or a converting intention, rather. So for example, people who go to google.com and search for protein powder are much more likely to trust the ad and are much more likely to have a certain intention on Google than they have on ask.com or on YouTube. So if you search on protein powder on YouTube, for example, chances are you might be looking for a video and some information on protein powder, but if you search for that on Google, chances are you might be interested in buying a protein powder. So they're very different in their intents depending on which websites you are. And of course, if you go to CNN.com or Amazon.com or, you know, Bing.com or whatever website that you might end up with that's a part of the Google partner system, they're gonna have different intents, and you don't know what that means for your product. So a best practice here is simply to not use the search network, because whatever money that you can spend on Google ads, in other words, in putting your ads out on Google, which is the biggest and most trusted search system in the world, that's gonna be the best money you can spend. Now, if you have additional money, or if you're a more advanced user, you might be able to use the search network to your advantage. But for a beginner or for best practices, especially with a limited budget, I would never use that. I would spend my hard-earned money on putting my ads and focusing that on Google, right? And also notice here that when we deselect them, we have these information boxes that says most advertisers include their ads on Google search partner sites, right? And here it says, don't miss the opportunity to reach more people across 3 million sites and apps. And hey, Guess why these were pre-selected in the beginning? Because Google wants you to spend more money, right? Google is a business and they want to make money off of you, and that's nothing new in the world, right? But we're looking for best practices, we are looking for results. That's why we are in this course. We're not here to give Google as much money as we can. So this is one of those that I call a Google trap, and we're going to completely avoid it. So to summarize this entire video, best practice: deselect search network, because different websites have different intents, and absolutely deselect display network, because you never want to mix search intent together with a display network. They're two completely different things. Keep your data clean so you can analyze and optimize later on. Alright guys, so now you understand what the networks are, what they mean, and most importantly, what to do with them. We're gonna move on to the next lecture and continue setting up our campaign and our ads. So great job following along. See you in the next lecture.